if you're one of our 5 Northern Virginia Alliance Group market centers, we are moving away from .loop in January. So I mentioned it there. The drop dead date for those market centers to be using .loop is on January 15th. And on each of your market center internal Facebook pages, a fact sheet was put up there that answers a lot of the questions that you probably have about the transition from .loop to Docusign. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys to go check that out. We do have agents from other market centers that those deadlines don't apply. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on those, but if you have any questions, reach out to me and I'll help you with your individual situation on how it applies to you. What we're going to do today, so let's go over what we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about what you're going to learn. So first off, some of this may be repeat to you, and that's okay, right? Just stick with us here. Hopefully, though, you're going to learn a few new tricks and tips. What we're going to do today is we're going to be covering Docusign, right? 99% of the time in this class today is going to be spent inside of that Docusign applet. If you're coming for compliance help, so how do I upload documents to turn into the broker for a compliance check or to turn in my commissions, that's the other class. So a lot of the graphics that are going out shows Docusign training, then compliance training. So I'll be doing that one tomorrow at 1 p.m. So today's class is going to cover Docusign all the way up to the point where everybody who needs to sign a listing agreement or a purchase contract has done so, right? And we get a ratified deal. That's where we're going to get to today. And then tomorrow moving forward is going to be compliance. And basically, here's the schedule. Docusign training is every Monday and Wednesday. Compliance training is every Tuesday, Thursday. So what I would ask of you is learn today, right? This isn't your only opportunity. Go create a transaction, right? Maybe put your spouse or your friend in as a contact, like you're going to be listing their property. And you can go through all of the motions we take today, send it for a signature, receive it back, and just get used to this, this new cadence with Docusign, all right? We already have a lot of agents who have transferred over from .loop to Docusign. And I will tell you with a few different little things that I'll teach you today, most of them love this system and they haven't looked back once. So it's just about learning the process. Hopefully come back to future classes if you run into an issue. And again, I'll be teaching it every Monday and Wednesday. You'll be able to come back, ask your question, and then move on from there. Okay. So here's what we're going to learn today. And then I'll stop for a few questions and then we'll jump into command. The first thing is we're going to make sure that you have connected your account to Docusign. Hopefully a lot of you have done this already because you could have done this a year and a half ago when I came around and did the Docusign bootcamp. So I'll give you some directions on this. We're going to go over how you're going to access Docusign in command. So basically, how can I create a Docusign room so I can get to documents, right? A client calls and says, Cindy, I would like to sell my house. And Cindy says, okay, I need to go get my listing agreement. So we're going to go over how to go get that listing agreement. We're going to talk about how do you fill it out, right? How do I put in all the terms of the agreement when it goes to what the list price are going to be, and then send it out for signatures, right? And get the signatures from my client, from the broker, or potentially from yourself, right? And then finally, we're going to finish up with, we're going to go over the basics, what you need to know. And then there's a few tricks and tips, again, at the very end of the class I'd like to go over that might make your life a little bit easier. So how can you split up a PDF? How can you combine documents into a PDF? How can I create extra folders for organization? So that's what we're going to go over today in the class. All right, let's stop there for just a second. Does anyone have any questions about the agenda today or what we're here talking about? Okay, I'll take silence as everyone's on the same page. Is there anything you came here to learn about today that's not on that agenda that's like life or death situation for you? If so, let me know and I'll make sure I can cover it. Okay. All right. So before we get into command, last thing, let's go over a couple different resources that I have for you. All right. Many of you know about my Facebook page, right? So many of you know that I have a Facebook page that I run that is called the KW Alliance Technology Mastermind. All right. If you're on this call, you are happy to join this page. Okay. Happy to join this page. Now, what I have in this page in the file section is this PDF right here. that is a step-for-step instructions. If you're the type of person and you like to follow written instructions, this is a great resource for you. So if you're on the Facebook page, and I'm actually going to post this right now inside of the chat of the call. So if you'd like to download this directly from Zoom, right? Right now, coming into, let's see here, let's get it in. So Microsoft. All right, so I'll put it in just a second here. Let me get it in there. But this document here, all of these are hyperlinks to help articles. And this actually walks you through what we're going to do today. So creating an opportunity, how to start a transaction in Docusign, and then the actual steps for getting something out to signature. Okay, so this document is on my Facebook page in the file section, as well as some other written instructions and tips for Docusign. It's all in one document. So again, if you go to my Facebook page, go to the file section, and you'll see it. It's right here. It's called Docusign 101 Notes. You can click on it and get that document. All right, any questions on that? Okay. All right, so the very first place we're going to start today is let's all go ahead and log into Command. If you're on this call, I trust that you know how to log into Command. Okay, if you don't, that's something you need to reach out to your Market Center leadership staff about, maybe the MCA or front desk, and they can help you get that username and password. So the very first thing on the agenda today was talking about making sure that you have Docusign connected into your command. So let's go there, and you can confirm that it's connected. And if you haven't been into Docusign in a while, you can actually see which email address you connected, and that's important because that's your login name. So if you're with me here on the screen, we're going to go up to the top right-hand corner, click on your name, and we're going to go down to Settings. All right, and in Settings here, you can see that my first application is Docusign. Okay, so everyone can see that here. So I am connected. Is there anyone on the call right now that does not have Docusign connected inside of Command? Unmute yourself if you need to, right? So I just want to make sure I know, because we might need to set up a one-on-one to help make sure you're connected. Is everyone connected to Docusign that's on the call? Right, yes, thumbs up. Okay. All right. There is a great help article in KW Connect, right? That walks you through. It's called Create and Connect Your Docusign Account in Command. And again, I'm going to go ahead and stick this in the chat real fast, just so in case anyone wants to copy these resources for later. Once you connect to Docusign, you cannot really show someone how to walk through the procedure because you've already done it. So this help article does a great job. It shows you screenshots and has a click for every single step here and shows you step for step on how to connect your Docusign. So I don't think anyone here needs to worry about that, but that is a resource moving forward, okay? So we're in Command and we are in Docusign. Perfect. All right, so that's number one on the agenda. Got through that. Okay, so up next on the agenda was how we're going to go get to Docusign to get documents. So who on here knows which applet in Command do we go to get to our documents?
Opportunities.
Opportunities. So inside of Command here, you have these applets on the left-hand side, and one right in the middle here, it's the two hands shaking, is called Opportunities, right? So in order to create your room to get your documents, you're going to click on Opportunities, and the first step is we're going to create the opportunity. Now, again, hopefully most of you know how to do this. This is something that has been working and a lot of people have been doing for a long time. So I'm going to go rather quickly here. I'm going to click on Create Opportunity in the top right-hand corner. It should only be your market center or the market center in which this opportunity is going to be in. What type of opportunity is this going to be? So is this a buyer, seller, tenant, or landlord? So in this case, I'll say it's going to be a listing, and then you have to select your client. All right, so I see Nicole here, so I'm actually going to use Nicole. I'm going to say Nicole's my client today for my listing, and she's going to pay me 3%, right, Nicole? Perfect. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create that opportunity. Okay, I've got lots of videos on my YouTube channel, guys, of how to create opportunities and those basic videos on opportunities. So if you need help, go there. What we're looking for is Once we come into an opportunity, we are looking for the documents section right here in the middle. Okay, everybody sees that? So documents right there in the middle. Okay, so the very first step you need to do is, because the Fairfax Gateway Market Center is licensed in multiple states, on ours, you have to select your checklist. So I'm gonna say this listing is in Virginia, right? And so it's showing me here, okay, these are all the documents I need to receive. So this is where people get a little bit confused, guys. There are no documents in this checklist here. This checklist for our market center is, these are the required documents for compliance. In the top right corner, and be careful because your Zoom video may be over top of it. If Docusign is connected, you should see a button that says start a transaction. All right. If you've already been into this room so if you've gone into an opportunity that you created in the past and you started a Docusign room, or every time you come in after you create the room, this is now going to say go to transaction. Okay. So start a transaction is what you see the first time. Every time after that, it says go to transaction. So in this case, I would click start a transaction and Docusign. Okay. And that's how we're going to go and create a room, which is very similar to a loop. So if you used .loop before, that's basically what a room is. All right. I see a few hand raised here. So let's stop for a second. Cindy, what you got?
Do we always have to go to the checklist first before we start a transaction?
Okay, yeah, so it's a good question. So you do have to go to the Documents tab, and then you can click on Start a Transaction right away. You don't really have to mess with that checklist, but you do have to hit Start a Transaction. Now, this is a very common question I get. Do I always have to go into Command and go into Opportunities and go into Documents to get to Docusign? The answer to that is no. You have to create it the first time here. Once you create it, I can be out and about, and I can log into Docusign.com and access this room. Right? I don't need to come to through Command every single time, but I need to come through Command the first time. Nicole, I saw you had a question.
So another way to say what you just said, which I have learned the hard way recently, when you create the room in Docusign, you have to create it through Command. If you create a room in Docusign by logging into Docusign immediately, there's no way I can get Command to see that room.
You are correct. Create the. So the way that they are talking to each other is it's created through the opportunity. So yes, don't go to Docusign and create a room, because then it's an island, right? Kind of floating by itself.
Would be curious about best practices for when we do screw this up. Just download it and upload it into Command. Like
exactly. So yep. Exactly. So you can just go into that room, right? Click on them and say the signed copies, hit download as a PDF, and then I'll show you. Then you'll just upload that PDF into the compliance folder and turn it in. Yep. So it's not linked, but you can still upload it in later. Okay, good question there. Anything else here, guys, before we actually go into Docusign and start working on the process there? Perfect. Let's keep moving then. Esther, do you have anything, or just turn your camera on? Oh, good to see your face. Okay, so we're going to hit Start a Transaction. We're going to click on Docusign. It's going to ask you to log in. Okay? It only should ask you to log in once a day. So you're going to use the email address that was in the settings that you connected, right? So this is something you need to remember. You need to know your Docusign username and password, just like you would your .loop. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And again, once I log in for the day, it keeps me logged in for 24 hours. So it's not every single time. Now, some of you at this point may be receiving a dual authentication type process where it's trying to verify your computer, or it's trying to do a dual authentication code. Is anyone receiving that right now as they're trying to log into Docusign?
Yes, I was almost about to ask you that. Can I
See,
turn it off?
you can. All right. So I want you for those of you who got that, just write a little note on the side. And I'm going to show you at the end of the class how we're going to turn that off so you don't have to face it every time you come in. Okay. All right. Now what happened was a room was created. That's what it's called, a Docusign room. And you can see here that it says Nicole Duffy. And just as Nicole probably explained better than I did, it's because now this room is connected to this opportunity that I just created with this contact, right? So now they're linked together and talking to one another. And that's important when we upload for compliance, because you don't have to download anything. You basically just allow the systems to sync and talk to each other, and we'll pull the documents over from the room. That's the importance of having them connected. Okay, everybody with me? All right, now just for a second, everyone just kind of look at my camera versus my screen. This works in 3 steps, and then the cadence is really important because this is where people get frustrated. The first step is we're going to put in all the details on the transaction, meaning address, dates, things like that, right? Kind of so it auto-fills the documents moving forward. The second step is we're going to fill out the form. So we're going to put in the dates and the listing price and check off what's included in the sale, right? Then the third step is signatures and initials. Okay, you do not do them at the same time. So you do them in 3 separate steps. So we're going to go through those 3 separate steps. But just realize anything to do with dropping a signature or dropping an initial happens at the very end. And it almost feels like you've missed it, right? You're like, I can't go this far if I haven't done this yet. It's at the very, very end. So just remember that. Signatures and initial boxes all the way at the end. Okay? Now, when we look at this Docusign room, we right now are on the Documents tab. Everybody see that? All right, so we're on the Documents tab. What you should do is, the first step is go back to Details. So there's a tab right to the left here that's called Details. And what'll happen is if you have that client, I just created the opportunity here with Nicole. If I have her phone number and her email address and some of this information in here, some of that information will come out of the contact card and autofill in. Now that'll save me time when I go to write the contract, right? I don't have to go back and put that information in. But I can also come in here, and in this case, it's only Nicole, maybe selling her house. I could also come in here and click Edit, and I could add her spouse, okay? So if I wanted to add somebody else in there, I could, and now both names would show up, right, on all the different documents. So this is almost like your autofill section and what you should come and do first, right? If you scroll down here, you'll see sections for listing agent. So all of my information is auto-populating in there, right? And you can add in other agents as well. So if you're co-listing it, right, there's fields for all of those things. There's also fields for address, right? So if I came in here and I put in an address, you will see then that this address will pre-populate over to the listing agreement, the deport disclosure, all of those different things. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? So details section, best place to go first. It'll save you time in the long run.
Kyle?
Yes.
This might sound dumb, but okay, so on the listing site, it's not going to pull in Nicole's home address from the contact card, correct?
Doesn't, because what they were finding is that a lot of people are buying investment properties or second homes. And so when it's bringing in the address, it was auto-populating. The agents weren't changing it. Okay. Now they have documents that are all filled out with the wrong address. So it's kind of the burden of the client to put in the property address of the sale itself, because it could be different properties. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Now, guys, make sure you hit save here. Okay, I know it seems like a small thing, but it's at the bottom of the screen. And if you go fill out all this information and you just click over to Documents tab here, you lose all that information. So just keep that in mind, right? Click the save button, and then everything saves. Another common question that occurs, there's a People section tab here where you can actually add someone in by their email address, right? So I could add somebody into the transaction, like Nicole's spouse potentially. Here's the difference between details and people, and it's very important. If you put someone into the People tab, they will get an email that says you have been invited to a room. If I put information into the Details tab, no email is triggered. So here's what some agents have been experiencing, right? I go in and I put in Nicole and Josh into People. They get an email that says you've been invited to Docusign. Maybe I'm a week before the appointment and I'm just prepping the documents, okay? So don't put those people in People, right? I can go a week early and put everything into Details, create all the documents, nothing gets sent to them. So make sure you understand the difference. People might be my transaction coordinator, an admin potentially that I want to have access to this room. It's not the consumer or the client that is part of that transaction. Everybody with me on that? Any questions around details? Okay. So what we're going to do now is the next step logically would be we need to go get our documents. I'm going to pause here because if you read the fact sheet, all right, so if you guys are in one of our Northern Virginia offices and you read the FAQ sheet that should have been posted to your Facebook page, one of the things I mentioned in there is There's an update coming this week, and it's supposed to be tomorrow to Docusign. All of the libraries are currently in here. So I'm going to show you guys. You can go get your NVAR library. You can go get Maryland documents. You can go get VAR documents. The update coming this week is you all will have the ability to create your own templates with those forms and pre-fill everything out. I can't teach it today because it's not here, okay? So jump on a class within in a week or so, and I'll be able to show that to you. I have labbed it. It all is going to go through this My Docs section right here. So you'll be able to go in and pull in your listing agreement and fill out your brokerage information, right, and all of that, and then save it as a template and be able to use that template to pull in all your documents. So what I'm about to show you is kind of the long way, and this is going to be easier a week from now. Okay? So right now, the way that this works is if you click on Add, right? So in the Documents tab, we're in the Documents tab. If you click on Add, you should see where it says Docusign Forms. All right? And if you go ahead and click on Docusign Forms, this is going to pop up. Now, some of you may get an NRDS verification pop up. Raise your hand or let me know if you got that, where it says, please verify your NRDS number. Everybody? Nobody? Okay. The next thing you should be able to do here is you see where it says Docusign Forms Library. I want you to leave it there. Click on Select Library, and you should see what you have access to. Now, if you're missing any libraries here, I want you to reach out to me and let me know. We just need to make sure we verify your NRDS number. So I am in Virginia, so I've got access to VAR's library as well as NVAR's library. Okay, if you're in West Virginia, you should see Eastern Panhandle. If you're in Maryland, you should see Maryland Association of Realtors. Same thing with GCAR. All right, if you're supposed to see a library and you don't, again, that's an NRDS number issue, and reach out to me. I'll help you get that verified. Any questions here? Is anyone missing anything, obviously, that you just want to jump out and tell me real fast?
Cal, I see NVAR. Is that the one that we're supposed to press? I also see our office here.
Great question. So along with the NVAR one, you should also see, at least for our Alliance Group Market Centers, another folder that says KW and your Market Center number. Okay, inside of that library is where you are going to find your McLean disclosure, okay, your Vesta disclosure, and your broker credit template letter. Does that make sense? So anything that is an office specific document is going to be in that folder for your market center. Okay, so great question. So Esther, now here's the good thing. Right now, let me go back a little bit here. Right, so if I click Add and I click Docusign Forms, if this was a buyer side, right now I'd have to go in and go to NVAR, grab my buyer agency agreement, and then I'd have to go to this library and grab my disclosures. When you have the ability to create templates, you can put those together for yourself, right? And just be able to say, use my buyer template, and all the forms come over in one click, pre-filled out with all the information that you put in there. All right, it's a good question. There is a third option, which is in most of our market centers, they're complete. If not, I will complete them this week. If you go to Docusign Forms Library up here, there's something called Groups. And I know I've done this for at least Fairfax. If you go to Virginia Buyer Agency, I've already gone in and grabbed all those documents for you, and you can just add the group of documents, but you still have to fill everything out, right? So templates will take it a step further where it would say Esther Smalls, right? 12700 Fair Lakes and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's how you're going to actually go in and grab forms. All right, so let me go to NVAR really quickly here, and I'm going to type in listing agreement. All right, so it's actually what? Exclusive right to sell. Can't type today, sorry. So exclusive right to sell, let's say I go ahead and bring that in. And then I also want to go get my, let's say we're going to get my DPOR disclosure. All right, so maybe I come in here and grab my DPOR disclosure. I click Add. So you guys saw what I just did there. I searched for a document just like you can in any other library, selected it, clicked Add, and now here comes the two documents, right? So now I have two documents in my room. Any questions about grabbing documents? Forms. That's what we're talking about, really.
Did you grab both of those at the same time?
Yep. So you can check off one and then go search for another, check off another one, and you'll see at the bottom it says two selected, and then I clicked Add.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you.
Here's what's important about this, guys. It says form right here. The reason that that's important means it's fillable. Everything in here has become editable by Docusign, meaning I can fill out all the boxes, right? If this was a PDF, it would say PDF. So a PDF is flat, meaning that like, I can't type in it because we don't know where we're supposed to type. So I'll show you some tips on a PDF next, but just make sure you understand these two forms. All right, so here's what we need to do next, right? We need to fill them out. So that's what we're gonna do here. So I would click on exclusive right to sell. I'm actually gonna select the document, click on it, and it will open in a little pane. And here comes my listing agreement. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here because you all have a broker, right? If you have any questions about filling this out, then make sure you talk to the broker, right? So in comes my documents here. I didn't click save, by the way. I want you all to know that. I showed you, make sure you hit save, and then I didn't do it. If I would have, the address would have come in here and all the rest of those things I typed in, okay? So here's the document. You can see everything is fillable. I believe all the mistakes on these forms are now gone. If you're using it, though, and you find that I can't click into this box or type what I need to, send me a quick email, because Docusign is like really fast now at fixing that. So if you find an error on a form, let me know. But it seems like everything is working really well. I should be able to come in here, right? Type in the address if I have to, right? You guys all get the point here. So you're going to fill out your document. All these here are clickable, right? There's an alarm system, right? There's 9 built-in microwaves. You guys get the point, right? Okay. So then after I fill out the document, again, this does not involve signatures or initials in this step. And everyone wants it to be involved here because it kind of was in dot loop. It's not, right? So you just put in all your information, click save and close. All right, there was also an issue as this saves and closes where once you brought a document in, you couldn't add it again. All right, that's been fixed. You can now delete the document. So if you right click on a document, you can delete it and then you can go add it fresh again. So if you typed in a bunch of stuff here and you're like, I don't want to, we switched houses, right? You can delete a document and add it in again if you need to. So now let's say I have 2 documents that are filled out. What's the next step? I need to send for signature.
Envelope.
All right, so I need to send for signature. So think about everyone, if you did Christmas cards or holiday cards, whatever it's going to be. My wife and I would take a card and we'd stick it in an envelope. We'd put an address on it of who needs to receive it, and we dropped it in the mail. It works the same way in Docusign. So what you're going to do here is that the terminology they use is you're going to put documents in an envelope. And that's going to be the documents that you need to send out for signature. You're then going to add recipients to the envelope, basically who needs to sign, and then we're going to send it. So here's the first step. You're going to say, which documents do I need to send out for signature? So as I hover over a document, okay, I should be able to check on that document in the upper left-hand corner. So if I had multiple documents, select the ones that you need to send for signature. Maybe all of them don't need a signature. Okay. Once I select documents, I get this little toolbar up here. Okay. And the one right in the middle, it says create envelope. And so we're basically saying, I need to create an envelope, and we're going to put these 2 documents in this envelope. All right. So I'm going to click that button there. And now all of a sudden, right, imagine an envelope sitting on our desk, and now we need to address this specific envelope to somebody. Any questions on that step right there? All right, on this form that I showed you is in my room. Now that you guys just saw it, I want to make sure we're all reading this together now, right? So we're going to start a transaction. We're going to go to details first. Second, we're going to add the documents. Third, we're going to click and fill out the contract. And now fourth, we're going to select the contracts and click the Docusign button. Does that make sense? So now that you've seen it, those are the steps, right, in writing to make sure you can get back to the same spot if you need to. Okay, back over in Docusign, this is what it looks like. So envelope name, please name this, because if not, all of the envelopes are going to be called please Docusign. So I'm going to name this listing agreement Nicole Duffy. Okay, because that's what it is. That's what I'm sending over. That's the envelope name. Below here, it says add documents to the envelope, right? And so you can see I've got the deport disclosure and the exclusive right to sell. So the two that I selected. Now, would you guys want them to show up in this order? So would you want to have deport disclosure first and then the exclusive right to sell, or the other way around?
Other way.
All right, some people want the listing agreement probably to be first. So realize the way they're ordered here in the envelope is the way they appear to the consumer. So I can grab it and move it, right? So you can see I just grabbed the listing agreement there. I can, move them around. And so now the exclusive right to sell will come first, followed then by the deport disclosure. Okay. And if I look here and I go, oh, I forgot something, you can quickly click on this and bring in a document. If you forgot something from that room, you can add something in from that room right here, okay, without going back and restarting the process. All right, so name the envelope and then organize and make sure your documents are correct here in the envelope. Questions on that? All right, we're almost done. The next spot here, it says add recipients to envelope. Here's what I wish this said. Who needs to sign? All right, I got a lot of questions on this. People just get confused here. So I just need you to kind of just understand this point. So when it says add recipients to the envelope, it just, who needs to sign, okay? When I select add recipient, because it's a form, right? Because it's a form, it knows where the buyer and seller are supposed to sign. So all the initials and signature boxes are already set up for you. So in that case, because it's a form, you want to use the pre-tagged roles. That's what it means, right? They're pre-tagged on the document. So I'm going to click on pre-tagged roles. And here's what it says, right? So it says here basically, okay, on the documents in this envelope right now, there's spots for seller 1 to sign, seller 2, seller 3, seller 4, and a listing broker. So think of it, right? The listing agreement has all those signature spots. The deport disclosure has 2 spots for sellers, right? So those are in there as well. So all I need to do here is say, seller 1 needs to sign. And who is seller 1? So from the details section, right, there's my seller, and I select Nicole. Okay, so my seller 1 needs to sign, and that is Nicole. Right? If I had seller 2 in there, I could click on seller 2 needs to sign, and I would select from the drop down on who seller 2 is. All right, in this case, Nicole owns her house, and Nicole's selling her house. And then the last step here is the listing broker needs to sign, right? Because the broker needs to sign the listing agreement. So for the Alliance Group Market Centers, this is why we allowed you to sign your own agreements. Okay, because at this point here, instead of signing a broker having to sign here, you have the ability to sign here. Okay, if you meet that criteria from that Google spreadsheet that we sent out. So in that case, I can sign my own listing agreement, send a copy to my client, and then upload for a compliance check. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so because here's the problem. We cannot get the email address for the broker in here. All right, so that's the reason why we kind of made that change. So here's the other option. If you need the broker to sign, okay, so let me uncheck this here. Oh, let me go back. Okay, so, all right, so do pre-tagged roles, seller 1, Nicole Duffy, listing broker. If I leave it as select here, okay, and I hit add selected, it will allow me to put in someone's email address and name. Okay, so the broker still needs to sign. You're still using the pre-tagged role. And this is where you would type in, right, Fairfax compliance at vaalliancegroup.com, or your broker's email address if you needed a signature from your broker. Okay, does that make sense? So pre-tagged roles, seller 1 needs to sign, and then listing broker. This also works. Yeah, go ahead, Cheryl.
Is this, I'm just a little confused about this. So will it go to seller 1 first, and then if I'm going to sign it myself, then come to me, or are we all signing at the same time?
It's a very good question. You see the numbers to the left of the names. See where it says 1 and 1? That determines how it's sent out. So in this case, Cheryl, yes, they both would receive the email at the exact same time. Now, the way that you should do it, the way that I suggest you do it, is change this to a 2. And that means the seller's going to sign, Nicole's going to sign. After she signs, I get the email to sign, and I can see that she signed everything.
Okay, thank you.
So if there was two, right, if it was Nicole and Josh, they might both be one, and then I would be two, right? So they both get the email at the same time. They both can sign, help each other, and then it comes to me after they get it. Don't do like 1, 2, 3, because then like Nicole gets it. Josh is sitting there going, Nicole, I didn't get it, right? It's because Nicole hasn't signed it yet, because that's the order in which someone receives it.
Sorry, Kyle, I missed it. Even if I put myself in there, I select as a recipient myself and not the broker. Do I need to put the listing broker and the email here?
All right, so here's the important part, right? The pre-tagged role,
Yes.
so the broker spot to sign is pre-tagged. So if you're going to sign for the broker, you must select the broker role, and then you would add your email here to sign yourself, Aisha. Okay? Yep.
Carl, what you mentioned there's a criteria to meet in order to sign in lieu of the broker. What is that?
You have to talk to your market center leadership. An email went out with a Google document, and you have to look at that document and sign it, and it has the criteria in there, Sammer.
Hey, Kyle.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Cindy.
Can you go back one where you were selecting the roles in the envelope, pre-tagged roles? Yeah.
Yep.
So when you were in pre-tagged roles and you wanted to add the broker's name because it's now the actual contract and he has to sign, not the listing agreement. Back there when you've selected the clients, etc., and you want to leave this blank for now, do you save everything on this screen right here first before you get back to the other screen? I missed that step.
Get back to which screen?
So you're here at pre-tagged roles and you're defining who's going to sign.
Yes.
And you know you need the actual broker to sign because it's now the contract, not the listing agreement.
Okay.
So I can't sign as the agent.
Okay.
So do you select listing broker?
Yep. So
Okay.
so in that case, right? So if you were to sign, right? So say I'm the agent right now. If I was to sign, I would select listing broker and I would select my name because my name's going to be in here. Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah.
If I need the broker to sign, I'm going to click on listing broker needs to sign. I'll hit add selected, and then I will add in the email for my broker or the compliance email.
Okay.
And then it comes to that person, but it's still in that same spot.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Good question. Okay. So let me go to 2 here. Let's do, hold on real quick. Fairfax.
Hey, Kyle, I have a quick question whenever you have a sec.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, so when I'm in the documents under the add pre-tagged roles, I'm seeing seller 1 for the D4. I add the name of the seller. And then when I go down to exclusive agency listing agreement, it says seller 3. Is the role just going to keep seller 1 through?
Yeah, so seller 1 and 2 should be tagged on all of the forms, right? So like I only have to select them one time, and that's going to let them sign the listing agreement, the D4 disclosure, the lead-based
apply
name.
to all forms.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, never mind. We don't need to select them twice for.
Nope. And I've gone over for like a year now. I've gone in and I've made sure that like everything is called seller 1 and 2, so they all line up that way.
Got it. Okay.
All right. So then the next screen is going to make you all feel much better, right? So let's get there real fast. So Nicole, then Kyle's going to sign. And then down here, this is where you can say, hi, Nicole, if you want to send a message over with the email, right? Hi, Nicole, let me know if you have any questions. This is the listing agreement. Call me when you get it. We'll go over it together, blah, 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 blah. Everybody with me? Again, don't leave this please Docusign. Change it, right? Nicole, listing agreement, whatever it's going to be, right? Make sure that the client understands what they're getting here. If not, it just looks very generic, and that's on you because you can change it. Now, I can save and close this. So if you would like to prep everything, right? Say you're going on a listing agreement, you can get all the way up to this point, okay? And I can then log into Docusign at my client's house and hit, okay, great. Let's go ahead and sign the documents and come right back to this step and hit next and hit send, okay? So you can do all of this up to this point and say who needs to sign, where do they need to sign, and then come up here and hit save and close. And then you can go to the appointment and actually send it out when you get there, all right? So once we do this, this is the screen that kind of everyone wants to get to. So when I click next, so after I name who needs to sign, this is where you mess with signatures and initial boxes. All right. So here is the documents. So you can see that I've got the whole listing agreement over here. All right, in one document, and then I've got the D4 residential property disclosure underneath that as well. Okay. So if I look over here, here's what's important on this screen. Top left-hand corner, it says Nicole Duffy. She's yellow. So everyone gets a color code on the Docusign form. So Nicole's yellow and I am like blue, whatever that color is, right? So as I scroll down on the document, because we selected pre-tagged roles, I'm going to see the initial boxes dropped, and it's telling me this is where Nicole needs to sign, and that's where Kyle's going to sign, basically. Okay, you with me? So the color codes matter. If I scroll all the way down to the end of the, so listen, this is not the time that you're checking these off. All of this would have to have been done in the document section. All right. Now there's a couple markup tools. So if you miss something, I'll show you how you can like add a checkbox, but like don't expect this to be editable. It's no longer editable by the time you get here. All right, let me go down to the signature section just to kind of show you real quick. Let's keep going. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, same thing here. It's got the seller signature there. It's got the broker sales manager there. All right, so the signature boxes are on there. All right. Now over here under Nicole, let me just show this to you. Let's say under Nicole, let's say in the document itself, you guys added some text here or something like that, and this needed to be initialed off on. Nicole, these are all of Nicole's tools. So I've got Nicole, I've got initial, and I can drop an initial box for Nicole over here on the document, right? In a yellow initial box. Okay. If I needed to go over and grab an initial box for Kyle, the broker, I could do the same thing, right? So I can come over and grab an initial box for Kyle. Now check this out. This is a quick little tip in Docusign. If I draw, see, I just drew a little square around those two initial boxes. If I do that and I click Control-C for copy, then I can go around on the document and I can Control-V and drop those two initials together anywhere on the document again. So I don't need to keep going back and doing initial, right? Once you make a box of who needs to initial, select it, and then you're able to paste that anywhere throughout the document to make it easier for yourself. All right, so that's just a little tip there. All right, so these documents are all now ready to go. The last thing here.
Now, where did you get that box? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem, Esther. So over here, you have to do it the first time for each person.
Right.
Right. So under Nicole's name, I'd come over here and I'd grab the initial box and drop it on. Mm-hmm. And I have to do the same thing for Kyle. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, once I add these two initials, if that's going to be like repeated throughout the document, mm-hmm. just a little tip is you just click and draw around those two initials and it creates this little box that selects them. And then I can do a copy, right? And then a paste. And then I can move those initials wherever I need them throughout the rest of the document.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Up here, it says recipient preview. So I can come in here and I can say, all right, I know Nicole is the type of person where it has to be right? Nothing can be wrong here. She's going to freak out on me. So I can go here and click on what does it look like for Nicole, right? This is a preview that we get as an agent. And I can scroll through this and it will actually take me through the same module that Nicole's going to go through to where she needs to sign, right? So if she has any questions or she can't figure out how it's done, you can literally like walk her through screen by screen by going through what the preview looks like for her. And then the same thing for the broker, right? Shows you what it looks like on the computer, what it would look like on a tablet, right? And what it would look like on a phone. So if you want to look at those different previews, like that's what I did just to make sure I kind of learned the whole system. That's just like one of those processes you could go through there, okay? Right, once you get to that point, you're like, hey, this is ready to go. I can go ahead and click send, and now it'll send out to that first position for signature. Okay, so if I'm number 2, I don't receive an email right away, right? Only after Nicole signs, then do I get an email. So I get that question a lot. I hit send, and I didn't get anything. That's because you're position number 2 or 3. So you're not going to get an email until it's your turn. All right, questions on this step?
Kyle, if we get to this point where we're getting ready to send it and you realize you've made some enormous error or whatever, what do you do at that point?
Okay. So one of the things you can do here is, so let me come back over here. So I'm in Nicole's section, and I'll show you what this doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter whose name you're in here. Let's say I put 404, or let me just do Duffy, okay? Mm-hmm. I know I spelled that correctly. However, let's say I spelled her last name wrong, and I got here, and I was like, I don't want to go all the way back, right? Redo everything. All right, so I could come in here and there's these different tools over here. One of them is a markup tool, okay? So if I click on this markup tool, one of them is a line. So that's the first thing I would do, right? I can come in here and I can draw, I said I was gonna do her name, right? So let me come up here, I'll do line. I'm gonna X out Duffy, okay? So I cross it out. Now, if I go over here to standard fields underneath of Nicole, you'll see that I have a text option. Right, so this is basically how I could drop a little text box over here, right? So I can drop a text box onto this document, and then it opens up over here on the left-hand side, like these little panels open up for the tools. So on the left-hand side over here is where I'd come in, and I would type in Robinson, right? I'll do that. Let me just do Duffy, D-U-F-F-Y, right? If I spelled it wrong that way. Okay, I can obviously resize this as well, so it's all in there. Now, required field means that Nicole would have to do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this as read only, meaning like there is nothing that Nicole needs to do. It's just a read only field where I changed it. I can then come down here and then there's your change, right? So I can now click off of that box and there's nothing I need to do, but I made a change to the contract. So what needs to happen now that I put an X through here?
Initials.
Nicole needs to initial. So I'm going to come over here to Nicole's name. I'll click the initial box, right? I'll pull it over here. I'll make it smaller, right? And I'll drop it down right there. And then I got to make sure my broker also initials off on that, or the agent does, right? And I'll drop that right next to it. Now Nicole can sign there as part of the contract as well as the pre-tagged roles.
Well,
Okay.
and Kyle, if I have parts of this agreement that I want the client to fill out, are these the tools I would use for that? Do a text box, but make it editable and just tell them to type in it, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing here. Now again, think about this, like, because you don't want them to go through every single part of this, but if you don't know the answer to a couple of these, maybe to Nicole's point, right? I can come over here and I can say checkbox, right? And I can put my check boxes on, and I can do the same thing, right? Control C, Control V. I can put my little check boxes on there, and then these are assigned to Nicole, right? So let me go back. I'll do assign to Nicole, right? Yeah. And now Nicole can check those off as part of the
financial stuff. And, you know, how many liens are there? Have you done bankruptcy? Like all that kind of stuff. I will typically have the client fill that out to make sure that they are taking the time to think about it.
Yep. And
not just relying on my assumptions based on our conversation. So this is the tool you would use for that, is the markup in Docusign.
Correct. Yep. So text, checkbox, drop down, and radio button, right? I think gives you all the tools you need for them to be able to fill in what you need them to fill in the document. Okay. And then I go ahead and hit send, right? And then everyone goes ahead and get those documents. So again, what I did was I put my spouse as Nicole here, right? I put them as the seller. I was the agent. I created the listing agreement. I sent it to her. I went upstairs to her computer. I opened it, right? And I signed it, just because nothing goes anywhere to the brokers, right? So unless you're sending it to the broker. So you can do a lot of this and just practice, right? Hit send. Okay, that's the process, right? So that's the process you need to go in and just kind of repeat and kind of get down. And when those templates come out, hopefully your forms will be a lot easier from that point. All right. Any questions on that? And then I'm going to show you a couple different tools here.
Will we eventually learn in this class, like if, let's say we submit a contract and it falls through, you know, how to sort of start over kind of thing?
Yeah. So what you would do is, let's say that happens. Now there's a difference between I need to erase the documents and the compliance procedure. I'll talk about that in the class. But let's say you're working with a seller or a buyer, right? And they go in a purchase agreement. So you write a purchase agreement for a property, and that property falls through. Okay. You can come back and you're going to have so here's what happens. Let me back up for a second. This is going to answer the question. I send these two out for signature. When I send them out for signature, I get 2 more documents in my room, and they'll have a green check mark, and they will be called exclusive right to sell signed. So I will have 2 copies of the original document and 2 copies of the signed document. So Cheryl, to answer your question, I need to go back and I need to fill out a new listing agreement, right? Potentially. All right, I can either go in and start with this one. So I go in and edit the fields, right? If I already filled out some of the personal information, or I can right click and delete this original document with the first property's information on it, go back in and add a fresh copy of a purchase agreement, right? And write offer number 2. Does that make sense? So you're gonna do all of that. You're just gonna manage the documents within the room.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, question on that. Once you have all these documents, you know, you've been practicing, can you go ahead and just delete it all, or would it all go archive like it does in Dotloop?
So here's what I would do. Let me show you the tips and tricks, right? So just be careful of deleting documents, right? Because you have to keep certain documents. So just make sure, even if you write an offer, right, and it's not accepted, you're supposed to keep that document for 3 years in Virginia. So here's my first tip and trick, which is if I've got all these different documents in this room docs folder, it's very clustered. Dotloop, I liked how you could create folders, right, and kind of organize things. You can do the same thing here. So in your room, if you click on the actions button in the top right-hand corner, you can add a folder. All right, so let's call this folder contract number 1. I can click create. Now you can see I've got a room docs folder, which is the default. That's what everyone starts with, and a contract number 1 folder. And then what I can do is I can come in and again, same thing. I'll select documents and I get that toolbar. Another one of the tools is move, right? And so I can move this document from this folder, right, into a folder in my current room, which is going to be the contract number 1. And I can move that document into a separate folder, right? So that way you keep everything organized instead of one big folder full of documents.
And how about all the stuff that, you know, right now we're just practicing, we're putting in the documents, we're sending it to our husbands, he signs it, you're familiar with it. Well, we don't necessarily want to keep it now. Can we just delete those and call it a day?
So you can't delete the room. You can archive a room basically, and whoever your MCA is can say it's allowed to be deleted. Honestly, you can delete the opportunity and you'll probably never see that room again. It's going to be attached to you, but you can't really truly delete a room. So it's a good question, but yeah, you can't really delete a room fully.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Hey, Kyle, if you go to the preview to preview what the client is seeing on the mobile version, is that the mobile app or is that just a mobile browser? Mobile browser. Yep. Basically, there's not a really great Docusign app right now, but the browser version on mobile devices works. So like I worked with an agent last week who does all their stuff on their iPad Pro, and they logged into Docusign.com and were able to finish putting the contract in and sending everything out for signatures on the browser aspect of it. That's a good question. All right, 2 more things here I want to make sure I hit. All right, so the first is you also saw another one of these tools. So let's say I wanted to combine these 2 documents. That's one of my favorite tools of Dotloop. Right, is I can take some documents and make them into one PDF. Okay, you can do the same thing here. So again, I select the documents right here. I can do select, and up top we have combine. Okay, you guys see that little tool right there? So combine, and I can now rename those 2 documents and combine those 2 there. Okay, they can't do a form, maybe the signed copy of them that you can do. Add over here, you can upload something from your computer. So this is the other use case. I have a listing, Nicole's listing. Someone sends me a PDF of an offer. Nicole's got to counter that offer, right? So I'm going to upload the PDF that was sent to me. So let me come in here and I will do. Okay. I'll select that document. Imagine this document was purchase, or offer 123 Main Street. Okay. So then what I do is, guys, there's nothing to click on to fill out. So we skip the whole document section, right? And we literally go right from here and we put it into an envelope, right? And go over to the next screen so I can drop in Nicole's initials and text boxes and counters and strike throughs or whatever I need to do, right? So a PDF, just remember, is on the next screen. Okay, so that's your PDF one there. And then the last thing with the PDF is someone sends you 30 pages of the PDF. Right? A big old PDF. I really like this tool as well. If you right click on a PDF, there's a split tool. And so if it's 30 pages, it'll actually come up and it'll give you a preview of each page. And you can actually say like pages 1 to 3 is the deport disclosure. Pages 4 to 27 is the purchase contract, and break it up into 3 separate PDFs. So if you only need to send one over for a signature, you can kind of like use that tool potentially
to break those up into separate PDFs. I use that not only for business, but for other stuff like all day long. I use that split PDF tool all day long. Okay. All right. So here's where we pick up tomorrow. So where we are at this point is we send for signatures. We've got these documents in the room with a green check mark that says signed, right? And where we're going to do the compliance class tomorrow at 1 o'clock, same link, is let's bring these documents over very quickly and easily from Docusign, submit them to our brokerage so we can get the check off that everything's been signed properly. And remember, guys, even if the broker signs the listing agreement, I didn't see the tax record. I didn't see the deport disclosure because there's nowhere for me to sign on those forms. So we're not asking you to submit everything twice. The broker typically doesn't see all these documents until you do the compliance submission. So that's where we're gonna step up tomorrow. And if you want to go play with this, right, Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock, we're gonna do the same class again, and you guys can start jumping in with questions about maybe where you get stuck, and other agents will learn from that as we move through the next month. Okay. Questions, we're at 11:58. I do have a 12 o'clock call, so I can't linger a lot today. However, any major questions that you have, you all should know how to get in touch with me. If you need one-on-one time, booktimewithkyle.com. booktimewithkyle.com. And I've got time slots up there, you know, this week and things like that available to help you out one-on-one if you have questions from there. Okay. All right, jump back into another class in a week or so, or on the Facebook page, look for videos on creating templates. Because as you guys can kind of see here, if we can get that done, if you can get the envelope part figured out, like you're off to the races, right? There's nothing to worry about. Like keep going and doing your business.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.